All right, so our project for the day is we are going to make a mug of sorts. So this is an example of kind of like how a mug can look, and the way I'm going to teach you is kind of similar to how I made this one right here. Okay, but I'm going to be making a much smaller one due to lack of clay and time and all of that. So to start out, this is going to be in the style of course we're doing hand building, we're not doing it on the wheel, and it's going to be made out of a slab, which is just like a flat, slab of clay. So if you have chopsticks, bring them out, and maybe if you do pottery, you actually have some sticks that you can use for rolling, but I use kind of just these. I'm gonna try to show you how it goes, these little tiny chopsticks. So you're gonna need your rolling pin, your clay, your chopsticks. Okay, so I started doing it already on my own, but I'm gonna show you again. So first, make your clay into a ball. And I don't think you need to set any aside for this project. We're gonna, maybe a little bit aside for the handle. So some extra clay, great. All right, make it into a ball. And now, this is the fun part. If you have a hard surface, you can do some slamming, okay? So you can just kind of gently slam it on both sides so it starts to get wide. Okay, so it's starting. You can keep kind of slamming it down until it's flatter. I'm gonna help it a little bit. Wow, not a great sound. Okay, so now you're gonna take your little kind of like pancake piece. Good. You're gonna put it on the table. You're gonna start rolling it out. Now you guys are older, or you're adults. If you're adults, thank you so much for coming. And I hope you have fun with this, because you deserve to get to relax and have some fun too, But anyway, you guys know, because you're older, that if you're using a rolling pin from your kitchen, you're gonna need to clean it very well before you return it to the kitchen. So just roll it out kind of like how you would cookies. And then you can flip it over. Keep rolling. Mine has some dry clay underneath, so now that's getting on here, so that's not ideal. So you want to use a clean surface if you can. You see this? Yeah. Keep flipping it over so it gets thinner and thinner. And then where the sticks come into play is you can put them side by side, kind of, and then use that as a thickness measure. So because you don't want it to go too thin, but if you put sticks on both sides that are the same size, it can't go thinner than that. So you want to make sure that they're thick enough chopsticks, of course, which maybe they aren't, but. All right, so you're making a big slab. You can make it the long kind, I think it's fine. But keep in mind what size mug you're gonna be using, because you're gonna need this to kind of be as wide as you want it to be tall. Okay, so for instance, I'm going to be using this to make it. So I need to kind of decide how high I want it on here. All right, so your slabs are looking good. Now you don't want it to get too dry. Try to keep your clay from getting too dry. All right, now take whatever you're gonna be using as model. So I'm gonna be making mine a little mug around this. And you're going to want to line it with newspaper if you haven't done that already. Especially if it's, if your clay's a little bit wet. So I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna wrap it around and get the bottom covered too. Cover it in newspaper. Got a little extra, rip it off, tape it, and we're good. Okay, so now we got our slab, and we got our model, We're gonna put it on. Okay. So now to measure kind of like what size slab we want to work with here, you're going to take you can move the rolling pin out of the way, the sticks out of the way. All right. It's going to be a little funky. Maybe I flip it over to the non-funky side so that the funky side's on the inside. You can do that too. All right. then you're gonna take your cup of sorts. You're gonna start it in one place and you're gonna mark where you start it. And you're gonna mark, and you're gonna hold your hand where you are, and you're gonna roll it all the way around until your finger reaches the bottom again, and you're gonna mark that spot. Okay, so let me just double check. I marked the spot, I'm holding the spot, I roll it all the way around. I don't think I did it right. Did I? Yeah, I went over a little. Okay, good. So that means this is gonna go all the way around it, so that's what we want. And you can add a little bit, you know. And if you wanted, you could, and you have a marker, you know, you could just mark the spot on. Yep, mine will be right there, and I added like a little 1/2 inch. Okay, great. So now what you can do, especially if you have a ruler or a straight edge of sorts, I'm just gonna use my chopstick. You can go ahead and make a line for where this bottom is going to be. Then you can decide how tall you want it. I'm going to make this tall, so I'm just going to make another line. That looks pretty good, right? Maybe I'll make it a little bit taller than that because it needs to connect with the bottom too. All right, then you make, you know, another straight line to the best of your abilities. And you know what, if you want to do that part later, but I think it's good to do it early so that you have these extra slab pieces to use. You're going to need one for the bottom, so you need to find a spot that's big enough for the bottom. So go ahead, mine has a spot over here, so I'm going to go over here and I'm just going to trace this around. So that's what my bottom's gonna look like. That wasn't a good trace. So try to make it a good trace because that'll keep your thing in a good, your cup will be a good shaped circle. Okay, so now I'm going to use that straight edge to go across where I marked. Make a line there, down here. And then you can use your pointy tool to go ahead and cut those. Now what we're doing here is just a rectangle, exactly, but as you can see, this one, it kind of tilts outwards. So as you can imagine, it wasn't a straight rectangle pattern that I used when we made this. So what you can do is once you have like measurements of what you want, you can make your own patterns and then trace them, and that's kind of how we did that one. This one, we're just doing it by using the piece that we're going to mold it around. Okay, so go ahead and follow your lines and cut through with your pointy tool. If you have a needle point, excellent. If you don't, like I've been using this toothpick and it is working fine. All right, so cut through there. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut through this circle that I drew for the bottom. And if you wanted to, you could go ahead and maybe cut out a handle. So I don't know exactly how big of a handle I'm gonna want. I'm gonna use this as a model. So I'm putting it on the side of this here to see kind of how it looks. And that looks like kind of a reasonable size. So I'm gonna cut out something kind of like that, maybe a little bit longer because you want it to be able to attach, and also you gotta shape it around. I'm gonna do it up here so in case something goes wrong, I still have some extra clay. And you can make a rectangle. There's a lot of other ways to make handles too. This is just one of them. All right. So now I've got these, and you can go ahead and pull them out. So here is gonna be my handle. Here's gonna be the mug part, and here's the bottom. All right. Now you have I don't know, I think it's best with fingers. So you want it to look good. So you want to smooth it out. So I just use some water on my fingers. There's much better ways to do this. But I like the feel of the clay. I like working with it in my hands. So yeah, you can go ahead and just smooth yours out. that background noise isn't too excessive. All right. Flip it over, you can do both sides like this if you want. You might be doing a little bit more of this later too when it dries. Well, not exactly like this, but other things to help. Okay, so you got your piece. So smooth that on both sides. It's the way you want it. Now you're gonna go ahead and wrap it around your base. All right, so you can see I'm wrapping it around, and here's where it overlaps. So you can decide if you want to just push it on here and smooth it in, you know, or cut it there, okay? So if you're going to smooth it in, which is what I'm gonna do, so now I'm gonna show you how to slip and score, right? So you're gonna take, now when you connect anything with clay, it might not necessarily stay, so that's why we do all this extra stuff to make sure that no pieces fall off while it's firing, because it's hard to get them to bind to each other. All right, so you're gonna take this and you're going to slash it in the two places that it's gonna connect, okay? So just like a crisscross applesauce, scoring it back and forth, okay? And then you're gonna do that on the inside too. All right, excellent, okay. Now we're going to add water. Okay. And once we've done that, we are going to press them together. And if you want it to have like this look like this without smoothing it in, then you can. You know, you just got to make sure you secure it real good in there. And the more you add, you know, all the ridges and the water and stuff, the better it's going to come together. So you can have it like that. So I'm going to keep mine like that because I think it looks kind of cool. All right. So that's how we have it. And now we're going to add the bottom. So did I cut my bottom too small? Yes, way too small. I traced it, but it still is way too small. So how can I deal with this, right? I could cut another one, or I could kind of make this one a little bit thinner so that it'll reach. Now let's see. Oh, I have a little bit of clay left, and it's a little bit bigger than the one I already have. That's why I said leave some clay left. Wait, what about over here? Let's try here. That looks not too bad. Either of these will work, so I'm just gonna go ahead and pick one and then cut around it. So that's maybe a better suggestion. You could wait to even cut the bottom if you haven't done it already. So now I have something that's more gonna fit like the bottom, not perfect, but more. All right, so now you're gonna go get your pointy tool and you're going to score a circle around the outside, you know, every place it's going to attach. So just a little crisscross all around. Same thing on the bottom of your pot, so crisscross every spot it's gonna touch, which in this case is just the bottom. Cool. All right, now we're gonna add the water. If you have some slip, which is basically clay that has been almost dissolved into kind of a sludge so that it can be used as almost like a glue, you can make your own out of your clay too, so feel free to go ahead and do that. All right, now we're gonna, gotta put water on both of them. Yeah, it's really best if you use slip, but this will work with water too, if you score it especially good. Great, okay. Now we're gonna connect so just like before, you know, kind of shake them in. A little bit of it's a little too short here, so I'm just gonna take another piece of my slab and add it. But I need to use a lot of water and scoring, you know. Okay, there we go. But you're gonna do much better, and your bottom is going to be the exact right size, unlike this one. All right, so then you can kind of go around the outside and smooth that in too. if your clay is not too dry. So just kind of smooth around the edges. Make them connect. If you have, you know, a knife or something, you can kind of use that to help smooth it in. You can also use your knife for the scoring if you wanted to. All right. Move it on in. All right. Make sure it's flat. That's another thing too, is like doing it like this. You want to make sure it's flat. So I'm gonna push it down a little bit, make sure the bottom's flat the way I like it. Because if you just make the cup and let it dry like that, it might kind of start to droop or not keep its form. So that's why we're using this on the inside to use as a mold so it can dry like this. All right. Oh, mine came out. All right, so here's what we got. Dun, dun, dun. Now we're gonna make that handle. So if you got the handle, go ahead and wet it down, smooth out the edges, get it pretty the way you like it, put any decorations on it that you might want. Now, if you want to press something into your clay, so like for instance, this has a design pressed into it. So if you want to do something like that, that stage, that's what you do at the slab stage. So like before you put it around here, when it's still flat, what you do is you take whatever the design is and or like a leaf or something, right? And you might want to use maybe some Pam cooking spray or some cornstarch, which keeps things from sticking to the clay too much. And you place the leaf over top and then you roll it into the clay with the rolling pin. And after that, it'll pull right off. And then you have the design that is on your pottery. Okay, so we got the handle, right? We smoothed it out all around. Now you're gonna shape it the way you want. Now what you can do, if your clay is really wet, is you can kind of shape it the way you want and then leave it like that. And let it dry like that, at least somewhat. So that way it holds its shape a little bit better, okay? But if you just want to, there's different ways you can do it. So you can do it kind of like this, or you can do it where it's more like half of a heart is a good shape too. Yeah, I'll go ahead with that one. So with that one, the two connecting spots are gonna be right here on the end. So we're doing the scoring. And then at the bottom on the inside is where you connect this heart one, half heart. Okay, so you score that. You find the spot on your piece that you are going to connect it to, and then you're gonna score that too. So I'm just gonna mark it there and mark it down there, so I know where it is. And then just gonna score that area. Great, okay. Now, add the water on the piece and on the handle. All right, excellent. Okay, now you're just gonna kind of wiggle it around a little bit, trying to get it to connect in its spot, and same with the other one. Now this one you probably will need to smooth a little bit. So you can take your knife and smooth in the bottom down here. Just really want these to connect good. You can smooth it on the top too if you want. But you want to make sure you keep that shape smooth down here. A lot of mine is not being very smooth because it's kind of dry, so just make sure you keep your clay wet. All right, you can go ahead and look at your handle and move it around a little bit if it's not straight. You know, you want to make sure it's straight. All right, and here you go. So this is attached, you smoothed it in. All right, and we are going to let it dry like this. And then once it's dry, and you can go ahead and take your fingers, and if there's any, like, you know, smudges, or I I nicked this like a lot of times with my fingernails. So you might want to go back through if you have long fingernails and you did that too, and just wipe away all of the extra little blemishes that you can. Or you can leave them and make it like part of your design and make it look, you know, kind of like old and rustic or something. So it's really up to you. It's your world. Okay. It's your pottery world and you get to design how it looks. Okay. So here we go. Here's mine, as you can see. This is how it turned out. Lovely. Okay. Well, thanks. Well, now back to you, other Lauren.